Hello everyone, welcome to Respectful Dave. Welcome to this live stream. Um just gonna run some tests, some technical stuff that I usually go through before ultimately starting with with chess, solving puzzles in this case, as you may have seen in the title. Just gonna run speed test. Okay. Not good. Hope everyone has been having a good day. But it's time to do some training, some using some brain power, because social media is dangerous, and when you realize that you've been watching short form content for the last hour or two, and yeah, you're left brain dead, as they say. keep yourself keep yourself active. Okay, so where is this? 9. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's review this. I'm gonna review something very quickly. Once again, excuse me for this or two, and yeah, you're left brain dead. Okay, and what about we just record like this? Is that possible? Testing, testing, testing. Let's see. That's not here. Is that possible? Testing, testing. Okay, well, that seems to be the solution of the problem. Okay. Well, yeah. So sorry about all of this. The position of the thumbnail is once again in a very silly way, or meant to be a joke. But I just moved all of the pawns forward. Wow. Amazing joke, David. Okay. We're gonna solve puzzles. So let's go to puzzles in Lichess. Here I'm a big advocate for Lichess, so just go under puzzles. We'll be solving around 2740. A little bit less than that. But regardless of that, still pretty tough. So let's get going. As I said, hope everyone has been having a good day, but it's time to work. Queen b5, we're playing with the black pieces. We have two bishops and a rook against two rooks and a bishop with, well, of course, queens, which in theory should benefit white, but of course this is far from true, given that white pieces are all inactive. Okay, so we have several ways of avoiding doing something about the check. Rook b7 comes to mind, blocking the check and creating a threat on our own, which is attacking the queen. King a8, which is just avoiding the check. King c8. So those are the three candidate moves. Of course, if it was my turn and if this was on check, we would be threatening queen c2 mate, because the bishop is covering these two squares. Rook b7, the first thing that I'm worried about is queen e8. Now I'm gonna do something known as calculating wide. Many of you would just go into that line and we'll continue with king c7, which we don't know if it's good or bad. We still don't know. It's too early to say. But calculating wide is, once you realize that it's not obvious after queen e8, moving on to the next move before you go into the rabbit hole of just thinking about this singular line, this very specific line, without even calculating another one. What if the other one is obviously winning in a much simple way, much clearer way? That's why king c8 comes to my mind and king a8 comes to my mind. By the way, king a8 continues to well, keeps the rook in the c file, which has the benefit of continue to to threaten queen c2. Okay, but all of these things happen in your mind, at least this is the thoughts that come to my mind, and it happens all very quickly. I'm just trying to explain it as best as I can. But okay, king a8 also has a disadvantage, and that is that it gives white the chance of playing queen takes b4 or a takes b4, which, well, it's met with queen takes a1. So maybe it's not such a big deal. But okay, king a8. If a takes b4 or queen takes b4, it doesn't really matter. We just go queen takes a1, king d2, queen c1, king d3, bishop b4, and that's going to be either mate or a serious loss of material for white. Let's move on. It's not that. That can't be white's best resistance. After king a8, queen e8 seems a little bit more reasonable. And I don't see anything else. Once again, I'm calculating white. I'm not falling into the trap of calculating one single line very, very deep. Instead of that, we're calculating loads of lines, not very deep, but deep enough so we can more or less sort out what's going on. Many of those lines are not that difficult to conclude, to evaluate at the end of the line. So king a8, queen e8 is the only worry I have. And very quickly I realized that we have made no progress at all. Because after king b7, queen b5 check, we would have the exact same position, and we didn't make progress. In fact, we can do this by method of elimination. Both king a8 and king c8 allow queen e8, which forces king b7, transposing. What does that mean? King a8 or king c8, it doesn't matter. After queen e8, it transposes into the same position. After king b7, we still have a king on b7, either way. And after white goes queen b5, we're left with no choice but to take the draw. Now, that clarifies things. That means that our only move is rook b7. Now, I did advocate against, or I did criticize rook b7 at the beginning, because after queen e8, it seems like our king is a little bit more exposed. But once we've calculated a little bit, it becomes obvious that this is the only way we can win. And it also becomes clear that after queen e8 check, king c7, only move. Queen takes f7 check, the only reasonable check. Actually, there's rook c1 as well. Okay, let's go little by little. I'm realizing some moves on the way. But okay, rook b7, queen e8, king c7. There's two moves that white could make in this position. Firstly, there's rook c1 check. And then there's queen takes a7 check. Both of them are forcing, and if it wasn't because of that, black is winning because black is taking the rook, playing queen d2 mate, or queen b3 or something like that. So rook b7, queen e8, king c7, rook c1 worries me more. Normally when your opponent brings a piece that is, doing nothing in the corner with check, that's usually a little bit worrying. The rook c1, bishop c3 is a candidate move, king d6 is a candidate move, king b6 is a candidate move. But I don't know, king b6 looks very weird. It seems like I'm allowing queen c6. Something like that. So let's go for bishop c3, at least for now. Bishop c3, still our threat in the event of white making a move that is not check, is queen d2 mate. So after that, after rook c1, bishop c3, we block the check. And after queen e7 or queen takes f7, well, queen e7, king c6. We are attacking the queen. This is the part where visualization becomes a very big deal. If you couldn't visualize in chess, if you're already getting dizzy here, well, it means that you haven't trained your visualization enough. You should be able to move pieces in your head, and it's different for everyone. It takes a lot of practice, but it's not as difficult as you may think. Or maybe it is, but yeah, it's practice. Rook b7, queen e8, king c7, rook c1, bishop c3, queen e7, king c6. We're hitting the queen, and we're still threatening queen d2, and there's no more checks. I know there is, queen e8. There's queen e8. Then king d6, queen d8. Rook d7, queen f8, King c7. Okay, but it feels like there must be a way. Rook b7, queen e8. I'm getting a little bit dizzy there. Rook b7, queen e8, king c7. If queen e7 directly is impossible, and queen takes f7, just something like king d6. I suspect. Let's go for rook b7 because we know by method of elimination we know it's not any of those. So we know we're gonna get this. This is what we were calculating. Queen takes f7. I feel like king b6 maybe. There we go. King b6 and there are no more checks. Because queen takes e6, bishop takes e6. So that's why rook c1 is the best to try. Here, king b6 feels like it doesn't work because of queen c6, and then king a5, a takes b4 with check, of course. This is very unclear. King d6 is running into something similar. Like you don't want your king in the middle. There's yeah, it's very dangerous. It goes without saying. Queen takes e1 we should have considered before. But it just seems like very difficult to believe because it's difficult for all of these pieces to coordinate. That's the only way we can win. That's the only way queen takes e1 could work. We either checkmate our opponent or we win our opponent's queen. And I don't see any tactic to win the queen. So as a result, I'm trying to checkmate my opponent's king. But after queen takes e1, king takes e1, bishop takes a3, king d2, my opponent has like tons of squares to go to. All of these actually. And it's difficult to believe that it's getting mated. It doesn't even seem like a mating net. So that's why I'm considering bishop c3. Bishop c3, once again, there are tons of checks that we have to calculate. Queen e7, starting with queen e7 and queen takes f7. So bishop c3, queen e7, let's see. Let's not go king b8 because of queen d8. So by method of elimination, again, probably we need something like king b6. Then queen d8 appears, or queen d6. King d6, king a5, queen c5, king a4, queen takes c3. That seems very difficult to believe. What about king d6? I know I said it was weird. If your king has to go to the middle, it's weird, but maybe it's an exception. Maybe calculation overrules that. King d6, queen d8, I go king e5. Oh, that's so scary. Queen g5, bishop f5. Or f5. Queen e3, king f6. I'm gonna try looking at the small board. Bishop c3. Queen e7. King c6. Queen e8. Okay, let's try king b6 again. But it just seems so wrong. Queen d8 is also worrying. Not only queen c6, but queen d8. But both of them probably work. Queen takes c1 doesn't work. King d6. Yeah, I'm trying king d6 again. But I think something I haven't realized actually is that even after king d6, let's say a6 b4. Where's my threat? Like, what am I doing? I think it has to be bishop c3 to keep the bishop alive. But then we need a move after queen e7. By the way, queen takes f7 doesn't worry me as much. Because of king b6. And There are no more checks. That's good news. Bishop c3, queen e7, king c6, queen e8, only move. King d6. It would be essentially, yeah, kind of triangulating into this position where the queen is on e8 and the king is on d6. And if queen d8, but by the way, queen f8, king e5, queen takes g7, f6, f4, king e4. So again, bishop c3 is kind of like the only move. Queen e7, king c6, queen e8, only move. King d6, queen d8 or queen f8, we go king e5. If the queen was on d8, queen g5 is nothing to worry about, if I can say that. Because of f5, and queen takes g7 doesn't exist, because the rook is attacking, well, defending that square all the way from b7. Which means that after f5, there are only two checks that have to be calculated, which is queen e3 and f4. f4 is nothing to worry about because of king e4. And finally, this king is more of a strength than a weakness, actually, that king on e4, because of, I mean, if white had one more move of development, yeah. But after f4, king e4 is winning for black, even though it looks very scary. But queen e3 is a little bit more unclear, because after king f6, sure, there are no more checks, but white is taking the bishop at the end. So we're getting close, but I guess, yeah, I guess we're also getting stronger puzzles, because this is definitely not the puzzle we used to get. So let's go back to this. So king d6, sorry, bishop c3, only move. If not, like for example, king d6, the only thing that worries me is that it's not even that clear even if white allows us to check with a takes b4, which looks very dangerous. Like, you shouldn't be allowing your opponent to check. But even if white does that, it's not that clear. It doesn't seem like we have a win. Therefore, it's not king d6 by method of elimination. And by method of elimination, we can rule out any other move that is not bishop c3, because this bishop is important to threaten queen d2 mate and to prevent this king from accessing e1 and d2, supporting d2. Bishop c3 is the kind of only move we have. Queen e7, king c6, queen e8, king d6, queen d8. Sorry, did I say queen d8 before? Bishop c3, queen e7, king c6, queen e8 check, king d6, queen d8 check. And there. Actually, there we have rook d7 as well. Queen b8 is not possible because of queen takes b8. And queen f8. I guess there's king e5, queen takes g7, and f6 attacking the queen. I think that's the answer, actually. Of course, the engine is not gonna force us or ask us what happens. But after queen e7, just use the engine. I always advise to do this, by the way. I've seen people solve a puzzle and they like just looking at the green arrow and they're like, oh yeah, I'm an amazing calculator now. I can go become a FIDE master now. Well, grandmaster, of course, just to put it a little bit more ambitious. But no, that's not true. you should yeah, calculation is much more than that. You have to clear so many lines to reach this conclusion. Anyone who acts this is obvious, who's not an IM or a GM or an FM or a title player in general, is wrong. Now, okay. Queen e7 check. King c6 is the only way. Well, technically king c8 as well. But just because you still have king c6 after the repetition. So essentially the only way to make progress is king c6 at some point. So king c6 we found. Queen e8 and king b6 according to the engine is the best. Because after queen d8 there's king a6. Okay. But we found king d6, which also works. Now, if rook takes e3 at any point, I was aware of just taking, and it's very similar. So, for example, queen f8, king c6, queen c8, rook c7, and yeah, for example, queen f8, king e5. Oh my goodness, this doesn't work. I was wrong all of this time. Let's see if queen d8, king e5 works. It does work, but yeah, it does work. At least this one works. Oh, but it works because we go back. What's wrong with... Ah, no, wait a second. No, our conclusion with this one was rook d7, I remember. King e5. Seems like king e5 is always running into rook takes e3. And now this is a draw. Because we don't have the bishop anymore, so we don't have queen d2 mate. Oy, oy, oy. So if this had been a game, I would have probably drawn the game instead of winning. There we go. So that arrow that you saw was misleading. I should have got the puzzle wrong. That's the importance of a chess coach as well. If I had a chess coach, or if you have a chess coach and they get to see... Oh, sorry about this. They get to see your piece of paper where you wrote down all of these variations. He's gonna say, he or she is gonna say, hey, wait a minute, this is wrong. Okay. Either way, let's get going. Continue. That was a good one. We're getting to high-level puzzles, which is good. Okay, so we're playing with the white pieces. Let's go right into business. We have a bishop looking at the king side. We have a knight potentially jumping to g5. We have a queen on h5, attacking f7 and h7, and we have a rook all the way on f1, putting pressure. So the first move that comes to my mind is knight g5. Essentially just building up this enormous pressure on f7. So knight g5, knight takes e5 blunders, queen takes h7 mate. Which, yeah, Silas, it seems it was the first thing that I calculated. Knight g5, queen takes h7 is the most dangerous threat, but also bishop takes f7. How does black stop both? Well, the answer to that question is quite straightforward. Now, before I go into bishop takes g5, which is what I think is probably the most logical response there, there's also h6. I just want to make sure that the threat of bishop takes f7 is strong enough that black can't afford to play something like h6. I just want to make sure that bishop takes g5 is pretty forcing. Knight g5, h6, bishop takes f7. There's also knight takes f7, which also looks incredible. But okay, bishop takes f7. King h8, because if rook takes f7 and queen takes f7, check, and king h8. Actually, that's interesting. Do we have... Ah, I see. We've sacrificed. Well, I don't have to show it. It's better to practice counting just on the position you have, because in real life, you can't... When you look at the position, you can't go back and see where white sacrificed a minor piece. But when you take a look at the minor piece count, black is up a knight. So we sacrificed the knight. Now, knight g5, h6, knight takes f7, rook takes f7. is a move, and then knight g5, h6, bishop takes f7 is the other move that we were calculating. There's some very beautiful lines here. So for example, knight g5, h6. There's also rook takes f7, which I calculated briefly. There's this beautiful line where... Wow. I keep finding things. Or I mean, motives. I'm not finding them for sure. So for example, knight g5, h6, rook takes f7, rook takes f7, queen takes f7, king h8, queen g6. Threatening queen h7 mate. I'll repeat that. I'll repeat it. Knight g5, h6, rook takes f7, threatening all sorts of nasty discoveries along this diagonal. After that, black has to take. Rook takes f7. Queen takes f7, check. Of course, the king cannot take the queen because it's defended by the bishop on c4. So king h8. And here, if this was a rook instead of a queen, we would have queen g8, rook takes g8, knight f7. But even that doesn't work because of king h7, so never mind. If the pawn was still on h7, it would be the beautiful mate with the knight. Anyway, it's not even a rook. So queen g8 is out of the question, but I did consider it. That's what I mean. But I consider queen g6. And the magic behind this move is that we're threatening queen h7 mate because we have a knight on g5. And if black takes with the pawn, we have queen h5 mate. Because, yeah, this diagonal is still covered. So all of these squares, yeah, checkmate. And after bishop takes g5, there's bishop takes g5. And if queen takes g5, queen e8, king h7, bishop g8, and the very famous mate with queen g8 at the end, and the bishop on f7. Now knight g5, h6, rook takes f7. There are many problems with that line. For example, after rook takes f7, it's not clear what to do after knight takes c4, for instance. And it's not, yeah, it's not clear. Rook takes g7, king takes g7, knight e6 check, bishop takes e6, bishop takes h6, king h7 or king h8, and yeah, it's unclear. Oh, wait a second. Bishop takes f8, king g8, queen g6, king takes f8, rook f1. I think it works. Good lord, we sacrificed 1,000 pieces. Okay, knight g5, h6. Rook takes f7, rook, knight takes c4. Now we're down 2 minor pieces for a second. We sacrificed the rook on top of that. We sacrificed another minor piece. And now finally time to collect some material. Bishop takes h6. We literally just have 3 pieces, a queen, a bishop, and a rook. And black has all of their pieces, except pawns. So they have 4 minor pieces and queens, and a queen and two rooks. But we're slowly going to get back some material after king h7 or king bishop king h8. Bishop takes f8, king g8, queen g6, king takes f8, rook f1. And the only way to survive that is bishop f6. But maybe that's enough. Because after rook takes f6, queen takes f6, queen takes f6 check, bishop f7, and it's not enough. We have e6 at the end, and we're threatening mate. And we finally took we took back our material. We got a bishop and a queen for a rook, and then we're getting 2 more actually. Wow, what a sequence. Now knight g5, h6, rook takes f7, knight takes c4. Rook. That's amazing. Rook takes g7, king takes g7, knight e6, bishop takes e6. This is an amazing sequence. But it doesn't have, it's not forcing because after h6, rook takes f7. I guess, yeah, that proves that black does have to indeed play rook takes f7. But then here knight takes f7 is probably winning. So yeah. Pawn. I'm lagging. I think I'm lagging. Stream health. Oh, yeah. Give me a second. Stream is healthy. We'll see. Okay. So knight g5, h6, knight takes f7, knight g5, h6, rook takes f7, sorry. Although knight takes f7 is probably winning as well. Okay. So h6 doesn't work because of rook takes f7, and we were just finishing to calculate. Finishing some calculation there. For example, rook takes f7. There's queen takes f7, but there's also knight takes f7, which seems like it wins as well. But yeah, so knight g5, black cannot play h6. So knight g5, black has to play bishop takes g5, but that doesn't change that much. I thought it was going to be a different story. But there's also rook takes f7, or bishop takes f7, or bishop takes g5. Let's start with rook takes f7. This is the most... seems like the most threatening, or the most strongest. We do allow knight takes c4 though. And things are not clear after that actually. So knight g5, bishop takes g5. I guess bishop takes f7, check. If rook takes, queen takes f7 followed by queen f8 is a well-known back rank motive. So knight g5, bishop takes g5, bishop takes f7, king h8 is the only move. Bishop takes g5 is the first move that comes to my mind. And I guess it gets complicated after queen takes d3, stopping the ideas of bishop g6 because of queen takes g6. Oh, wait a second. Actually, it doesn't. It still allows it because bishop g6, we're threatening now rook takes f8. And if rook takes f1, rook takes f1. Queen takes g6, rook f8 mate because of the back rank issues. Knight g5, bishop takes g5 is looking pretty promising after bishop takes f7. King h8 only move, and then bishop takes g5. And it doesn't matter where the queen goes. Bishop g6 is a big problem after that. There we go. Nice. That was a clean one. I don't think... yeah. I don't think there were many moments in which we super struggled. I think it was just a matter of there was tons of variations that we had to calculate, but little by little, it was just maybe a little bit tedious. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. In these type of puzzles, the first question you should ask yourself is, what is going on if I simplify, if I liquidate material? So of course you have, this is a rook endgame, but you have a forcing way of making it a king and pawn endgame. And after that, after rook takes e8 and king takes e8, you are closer to this pawn on d6, which is weak. Sorry, weak. I've shouted there. And you are up a pawn at the end of that sequence. So what you should, like what this puzzle is screaming to you, and what these type of puzzles scream to you, is what is going on after you liquidate. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind, liquidating. So rook takes e8, king takes e8, let's say king d3, rook, king d7, and figuring out what white wants to do. So for example, if white doesn't do anything, king c3 or king e3, king takes d4 and takes the opposition, is that position winning for black? Why am I giving black bad moves? In this position, I'm not sure if it even is the right thing to do, but it's one of the things I do to figure out if, even with white playing pretty softly, pretty passively, even then, am I still winning? Because if the answer is no, then the answer is also no to when white plays even better. So these type of tricks, if you can call it that, you never know if this is the right way of solving the actual puzzle. Chess is too complicated for that. But it does help you have that idea in mind, that card in your mind. So when you are playing a classical game, it's trial and error. You're trying that card, and yeah, maybe you one day will be useful, and well, I'm quite sure it's going to be useful, but hopefully in that position, in the position you have in that day, it will be useful, and sometimes it won't be. That's why you want tons of cards, if we're still using the analogy of cards. But it's all ideas and principles, and yeah. But going back to this, I got a little bit excited there. Rook e8, rook takes e8, king takes e8, king d3, king d7. What I'm asking myself once again is, what if white just plays something very soft? Very unambitious. King e3, king takes d6, and takes the opposition then. Okay, there's a limit to that technique. I mean, we're not gonna just give white just blunders now. So king e3, king takes d6, king d4. And then, what is going on there? So white has the opposition, we're up a pawn. Can we convert that advantage? Well, probably. One of the ways of converting that advantage is to trade, to play f7, f6, f5, sorry. So king e6, king e4, and then we have f5 check. And after takes, king f6. We sacrifice the pawn momentarily, because after king f6, there's no way for white to keep the extra pawn. Yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty promising. So rook e8, rook takes e8, king takes e8, king d3, king d7. If white does play that very soft move, king e3, king takes d6, king d4, king e6 seems to be winning, except for king c5, actually, now that I see it. King c5, what is going on? f5 takes, king b6, g4 takes, g3 takes. Yeah, that should be winning as well, because white is too slow, white is far away. Rook e8 takes, king e3, king d7, king e3, king takes d6, king d4, king e6, king c5, f5 is winning. Now, what happens if white is ambitious? So white being unambitious happens to lose. Not shocking, but still, it wasn't obvious. So takes, king d3, king d7, king d4. We get to the same position, but it's actually a position for white, which is even worse. Because king takes d6, king c4, king c6, king d4, king b5. King c3, oh sorry, king c3, king a4, king c4, king a3. That's actually not working, king c5. We have to go king a4 back, repeating, not making progress, because if we go king b3, there's b5. And if king a4 takes, king b6, we're losing. So actually there we have to take, play king a3, and then liquidation, and then white is closer to my pawn, so I'm even losing then. So rook e8 takes, king d3, king d7, king d4, king takes d6, king c4. We probably have to go king e5, and it's just a race. King c5, king f4, king b6, king takes g4, king takes b7, f5, king takes a6, f4, b5, f3, b6, f2, b7, f1, check, king a7, and yeah, it's a win for black, because black can stop both pawns. Black can stop both pawns. I think. Can black stop both pawns? I'm a little bit confused now. Yeah, I think they can. Actually, I'm not sure. Rook e8 takes, king d3, king d7, king d4, king takes d6, king c4, king e5, king c5. I think f5 is just much quicker. What am I doing with king f4? f5 takes, and I go g4. And there's f6. Ah, no, yeah. No, it doesn't work. Takes, g4, king b6, g3, takes, g2, takes, and we just arrive 1,000 times quicker. Yeah, king f4 and king takes g4, f5, that's slower. The rook e8 takes. It happens now. We've got rid of another line, which is king d4, king takes d6. Let's go into the serious one, king e4. So king e4, king takes d6, king f5 is it's kind of the scariest one because white is getting pretty active. I repeat, rook e8, rook takes e8, king takes e8. It can start with king e3 as well, king d7, as long as white plays king e4 now. If we take on d6, king e5, what if we go king e6? Then d7. And unless f5 is working and provoking the change of structure after g takes f5, king takes d7, unless that is working, that doesn't seem to be the way. I repeat, rook e8, rook takes e8, king takes e8, king e3, king d7, king e4. Let's try king d6. King takes d6, king f5, king e7, threatening king f7, and not only threatening that, but kind of protecting the pawn. King e7, king g6. And the question now is, yeah. Wow, okay. So there's some positions in chess that are well known, like they're good to know, and they're just theoretical blocks. So what is a theoretical block? In endgames especially, the way you learn from what position is winning and what positions are not is not by calculating endless depths and being a computer. We don't do that. We can't do that. The way we understand endgames is by knowing which positions are winning and why, before even solving puzzles or before going to a game. So you know that certain positions, oh yeah, this position when my king, for example, the most basic example I can think of is your king is on d4, your opponent's king is on d2, and you have a pawn on d5. If it's white to play, white being you, it's a draw, and if it's black to play, your opponent, it's a win for white. So that's the very basic king and pawn endgame where white wants to promote the pawn. You know that position is a win. You don't have to calculate until the end, right? You've studied it before. So you've studied that theoretical block. There's other words for other ways of calling it. So yeah, rook e8, rook takes e8, king takes e8, king e3. We get a theoretical block after king takes d6, king f5, king e7, king g6. And the theoretical block actually came to my mind just by thinking, what is actually white threatening? King takes h6? Well, I'm not, yeah, don't do that so quickly, because after king f7, king h7, f5, I've seen this theoretical block. After f5, g takes f5, sure, white has two pawns, and both of them are technically passed pawns, but none of them can promote because the king is on the way. White's king is on the way of their own pawn, and I'm on the way of the other pawn, the f pawn. So after takes, my pawn is running much quicker, and I'll win the game. So rook e8, rook takes e8, king takes e8, king e3, king d7, king e4, king takes d6, king f5, king e7, king g6. Even if it's white to play, I don't think king takes h6 is a threat. The next question is, what are we going to play? King e6, probably. King e6, if white refuses to take the pawn, we can actually force it with f5. Takes, king takes h6, and my pawn is much quicker. g4, this, g3, h6, g2. Not only much quicker, but it's promoting with check after white is forced to move out of the way of their own pawn to the g file, which happens to be under fire of my newly promoted queen. So king e6, king g7 is not possible because of f5, which means that king takes h6 is forced, king f7, and king h7. And then we get that f5 move. And we're winning. Okay. So rook e8, we didn't even calculate rook e3, which is very poor. But I think we're getting into that same... We're getting into something very similar after king f7, potentially. Because d7 takes, king e7, king e4 takes, king f5, king e7. What if we take first? Takes, king f7, king e4, king e6. It looks very similar. Which one is the right one? It feels like king f7 keeps the tension. If white makes a neutral move, now we take on king e6 and it's a much better version. Because if we take first, I don't know, it feels king d4, king e6, king c5. There we go. That's the problem. If we take on e3, king takes e3, king f7, king d4, king e6, king c5. And if it was white to play, it would be better. But it's black to play, and I think we're doing pretty poorly. I think we're losing. So king f7, and even though there's d7, we take, king e7. King d4 takes, king d5. Good lord. Why are so many moves here? I guess king e7 and king c5. f5 takes, g4, king d4, g3, king e3, king f6, and that endgame is always winning because we go king g5. So king f7, d7 is nothing to worry about. Because we take, king e7, king d4, takes, and even though white has choice, for example, king c5, I think we'll always be able to go f5. Takes, g4, king d4, g3, king e3, king e7, king f3, king f6, takes, and we're winning. Goodness gracious. Okay, let's go king f7. Now rook d8, rook d... I don't know, rook d8. There's a principle in chess that says all rook endgames are drawn. So yeah, that's what demotivates me. I mean, yeah, it's also like even if white loses the pawn, if you can trade the rooks and you think it's winning, that's a clear path to victory. This one is unclear. So rook takes, king e7. King e4, king takes, king f5, king e7 is a transposition. King d6, king e6, and that's the position we were talking about before. But rook takes e3, king takes e3, king e7, king d4, king takes d7 has independent value. Because there's both king d5 and king c5. I repeat, our king is on d7, our opponent's king is on d4, and it's white to play. So what if king d5? I think we just go king e7, king c5, f5 is the better version of the other line we mentioned. What is the other line? The other line is that instead of king d5, king c5, and then we still have f5, the same idea. Slightly worse because our king is on d7 rather than on e7. But I think it still works because f5 takes, let's go king e7, let's say. King b6, g4 takes, g3 takes, g2, and we're promoting very quickly. Almost always never changing. It's always almost always like transposing in some way. In this case, it's actually just losing a tempo. Okay, well, let's see. Is it time to play? I think our brain is a little bit warmed up. Let's play some Rapid. So I'm gonna change the title to let's change the title to and playing Rapid. Okay. So let's play the early Rapid Arena very late. Let's see if we can catch. Oh, it's Diwali. Happy Diwali. We're in 600th place. Let's Berserk. Let's play the England Gambit with e5. Okay, our opponent rejects. Let's insist. Our opponent rejects again. Good lord. Okay, my opponent makes a concession with knight c3. Normally in queen's openings, you don't want to put your knight on c3 before playing c4. Once you keep this pawn on c2, it becomes a weakness a little bit. Maybe e4 was better, by the way. So we're gonna transpose into some sort of, I don't know, weird exchange variation of the Caro-Kann. It's a little bit unclear. But I know one thing. And that is that this is pretty inoffensive. Nothing to worry about. Now, I wanted to play knight c6. But I know that this pawn becomes a little bit... It's not so much that the pawn is a weakness. It's more than you would prefer to play c5. It's useful to occupy and attack the center in this way. So that's why you do it. Of course, if there's a time to do it, it's now, because once you play knight c6, you can't do it. You would have to lose another tempo in order to move that pawn. That's why. Now, I think if you take here, this is a mistake because you allow this pawn to move forward. And especially because white hasn't castled yet. It seems a little bit dangerous. There's a move d3 in this position, which immediately jumps into my mind. But I think I'm just going to take. And what we've achieved is this knight was once developed a long time ago. I'm joking. It was once developed, but now because we have a strong pawn on the center, it's not even in my side of the board. It's in my opponent's camp. It's deep down, and already here you get to see why you don't want this to happen to you, because then you get all sorts of tactics. Let's take. Let's simplify now that we're up a whole bishop for a pawn. Of course, this is super good. Now we're going to exchange pieces. So I'm going to pin this knight. The very sad story here is that this is a pattern, actually. Every time you have a knight on b1 and a pawn on c3, that's bad news. Because the natural square of development for that knight is either d2 or c3, and both of these are occupied here. And that doesn't help. So white has to span the tempo, moving the bishop so they can bring the knight. Bishop g5 is much better alternative than bishop e3, I think. So that is credit to my opponent. But once again, we're going to continue with our strategy of trading everything. Okay, queen c4, that seems pretty risky. Leaving the idea of queen e1 alive. So now queen f1 or king d2, it doesn't matter, we're taking on f2. Because our bishop is from far away attacking. And this must be mate. Thank you for the game, Ahmed. Let's see if we can get to 36th place. We're going to try to berserk. We're going to use all of our energy. Okay, we're playing against Ralina. Let's play 1e4. Play knight f3, attacking the pawn on e5. Are we going to get the elephant gambit? No, knight c6. We're going to get the 4-knight variation. Oh, bishop b4, interesting. So there's a gambit here with knight takes e5. It's probably very bad, so I'm not going to do that. I can also play bishop c4, just bringing more pieces into the game. I'm going to play a little bit more classic. Like a castle here, sacrifice the pawn, and after... so not knight takes e4 here because of... Actually, why not? I guess bishop takes f7. Or knight takes e4, d4, something like that, and it's a better version. But bishop takes e3, d takes e3, knight takes e4 was the idea. I think there's also bishop takes f7 or rook e1 in that position. Yeah, it should be fine. Good lord, for some reason I'm reconnecting. You guys hear me a little bit laggy, please let me know. Okay, so now we have some options. We could go d3. We could go rook e1. Rook e1, I think it doesn't work because of bishop takes e3. I know, but I have d takes e3. Okay, let's go rook e1. I want to go knight d5, but knight d5, there's knight takes e4. So now I can go knight d5. now I'm pretty happy. Takes, we're gonna gain a tempo, and that's simply losing the knight. Okay, I don't understand what's going on now. My opponent went berserk. And I'm not talking about the leeches berserk, the real life berserk. Whatever that means. So this bishop, we do have to watch out for some queen f6 move, which would double up. Good lord, there's no respect anymore these days. Offering a draw, of course. That's not gonna happen today. Hope it never happens. The day I accept a draw offer like that is I don't know. It will be a very sad day. Okay. I'm not playing this incredibly well. Okay, let's play bishop d5. Just preventing c6, d5. You have to, even when you're up material, you need to be aware of your opponent's resources. Oh, my opponent goes for c6. Prepares it. Okay, well. d5 now is discouraged because there's always going to be bishop takes f8. In fact, I mean, we have bishop f5, of course, hitting the queen and hitting the rook, and there's no way black can save both. But there's also bishop takes h7, followed by bishop takes f8. I think we're gonna go bishop f5, because it also hits the pawn. As many chess players would say, all moves lead to Rome, which is the equivalent of all roads lead to Rome. But enough of that. Okay, I'm gonna take on h7. I think it's a worse version with the queen on c7 because the pawn on e5 is protected. But it's hard to judge. I don't think it's playing such a big role. I'm gonna play queen g3 d4 next. So I'm putting pressure on e5. The queen on g3 is very useful. It's actually keeping an eye on g7, keeping an eye on e5, keeping an eye on the pawn on c3, and creating this x-ray against the queen on c7. It's not even, you know, like for example, e takes d4 is a bad example because the rook is hanging. But for example, e4, it's not hanging because it's protected by the bishop, but we would be liquidating. Now my opponent offers another draw. Should we accept this one? There's no lag, but the stream freezes occasionally. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, it's I don't know. If it's occasionally, then it's fine. Thank you for the game, Realina. Oh, we get an immediate game, so let's berserk again. My internet connection is good, but it freezes for some reason. So we're gonna get another 4 knights. Let's see if we get knight f6. Okay, we get knight f6. There's a3 here, but a4 is interesting. Okay. Knight d5 is a move. I think bishop d3 is also a move. Castle. It looks like bishop d3 is breaking the opening principles, but actually it works. Once you know how it works, it's a little bit easier to play. After castle shortside, I was going to play knight d5. The whole point. Because this bishop on d3 is protecting the pawn on e4. Knight d5, knight takes e4 is usually the reason why white doesn't go knight d5. But after playing bishop d3, you can go knight d5. And not only that, after takes, you can go c3, bishop c2 later on. So that bishop ends up being on a very nice diagonal. And bishop c4 falls into the very common tactic of knight takes e4. That's the reason. Now, bishop takes e3 is nothing to worry about because now the whole problem of putting a bishop on d3 is that you can't move the pawn on d2. Why do you want to move that pawn? Because you want to develop the bishop on c1. But my opponent made my life easy now because I can take with the d pawn. Now I don't have that problem. The bishop on d3 is no longer misplaced because of that same reason. And yeah. The only thing that worries me is d5. But my opponent hasn't castled yet, so maybe there's some knight takes e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, rook e1 trick. Okay, castle short side. d4 comes to my mind, just preventing d5. Bishop g5 comes to mind. I think I'm gonna go bishop g5 before black plays h6. Maybe this is a big deal. If black's goes h6, bishop h4, g5, I was going to sacrifice. Okay, black goes d6. I can prevent black from playing bishop g4, actually. Not only by playing h3 and preventing that, but also allowing me to reroute my knight from h2 to g4, which is a very well-known maneuver. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So now black could go h6, g5, because now that my knight is not on f3 anymore. But even then, it's a little bit scary. Okay, queen e6, getting out of the pin makes sense. Very logical. Maybe it's time to go c4, because eventually black will be threatening d5. Not sure. I'm gonna go c4. g5, bishop g3. It does seem like my bishop is out of play, but we have still space advantage. I'm not super worried. Okay, knight h7. g4, is that worth playing? Okay, I'm gonna go knight g4. The idea? Bring the knight into the better square, which is e3, and it's eyeing d5 and f5. There we go. That's the color I wanted. Queen g6. Okay, so the idea of my opponent is now when I play knight e3, this is hanging. I'm not gonna fall for that. The question is, where should I put my king? Always a tough question to answer. I think I'm gonna say king h1. Maybe I want bishop h2 in the future. Yeah, I thought about that. So do I want the queen trade? I think I do. Okay, let's keep queens over the board for practical reasons. I just want to... I'm just claiming that if I keep more pieces over the board, I'm going to outplay my opponent. Oh, this is a horrible move. It allows h5. I'm not playing this. As soon as I say, yeah, I want to outplay my opponent, I'm getting outplayed myself. Okay, knight f4. Yeah. So I want to kick that knight away, but in order to kick it away, first... What is going on? h5 is something super annoying. Okay, let's go queen d2. The idea is that there's a g5, but there's f6. Okay, my opponent's rushing into these moves, luckily. Even then, they're probably better. Okay, should we play b4, sacrificing the exchange? I don't see anything. I haven't even calculated. What am I saying? There's also f4. Okay, let's go rook k e1. Or c1. Or queen d1. Okay, let's sacrifice. Can't help it. Knight b3 is winning material. Queen e3. So now my idea is just... Because we have space advantage. I just want to capitalize on the queen side. If I can get d5, that would be amazing. I need 64, queen 64. I still have that. Massive pawns. Okay, let's go a5, b5. b5. b6 is the threat, I guess. Takes, queen b3, b6. Creating a weakness. Maybe queen takes b6 was interesting. But I don't have time to think. I don't have time to think. Bishop takes f6 is super. Looks interesting. I'm gonna play king h2. Just getting my king out of the way. If this, e5. This, rook a5. Preventing queen e5. And also preventing d5. And preparing rook d5. And against rook a8, rook d5, regardless. Followed by bishop g3. And that is falling. Actually, there's a beautiful line. King e7, rook c5, d takes e5, queen takes e5, check. Ah no, king e8. King f7, rook, bishop takes c7. I think worked. Rook takes b8, queen c7. Okay, rook d5. Now things are looking a little better. What? We can take this. No, still not clear, but we can take it. Queen takes d6. Wow, okay, I can't predict anything. e5. Takes. Takes. Bishop h4 didn't work because of g5, unfortunately. Now my threat is... I have no threat actually, I guess queen f4. Or I guess bishop g3 and then queen takes g7. Actually, quite amazingly, I have no threat. That's unfair. So now I have, I guess, a little bit of... Actually, no, even here I have no threat. What am I doing? Pretty interestingly, I have no threat. Maybe I should have gone... Not sure what I should have done. Okay, this blunders now. This looks terrible. Respectfully. And we're just in time. There we go. Wow, that was a close one. Good game, Alekhine. Yeah. I'm just wondering if you should have kept the knight. Because that's such a strong knight. But I don't know. I think this should be... Yeah. You are winning. You are winning. Maybe keeping the tension here. Maybe taking allows me to, I don't know, bring the rook or... Releasing the tension and allowing b6 that easily. Seems maybe wrong. It's worth keeping the c4 pawn. For example, if you play, I don't know, rook fc8, if I go b6, takes, c4 is weak. Okay, we're going to follow... We've been having white all of these games. Now we're gonna follow... Hello, Roger. We've been solving puzzles and playing Rabbit now. We unfortunately joined the Rabbit arena a little bit late, but we're still fighting for, I guess, top 20. We have 11 points. Top 20 is 21 points. We have 9 minutes. Doesn't look amazing. What was I saying? Ah, yeah. We're playing what Leon Levic, a super grandmaster from Croatia, plays. which is these structures with do I go bishop g4 here? If white goes knight c3 and e4, then bishop g4, bishop takes f3 is the best way, or one way of playing. Yeah, we're playing this Keynesian structure. Just to finish my thought. The bishop f5 seems reasonable, even though it does double the pawn. The pawns, it's seems playable. I'm gonna go bishop g4. I think this bishop always suffers, and before white can prevent it with h3, I want to get it out of the way. So sure, bishops are a little bit more valuable than knights, as Bobby Fischer famously said. It is true, but it's also true that black is very solid in these positions, if they know what they're doing. Now, bishop, this seems a little bit wrong because there's e4 ideas. Takes, bishop f5. Sometimes this works and it traps the queen, but in this case, white has 1,000 ways of not losing the queen, so it's not that. But there is an idea of damaging the pawn structure of my opponent with bishop takes f3, exploiting the fact that I still have e4, so they have to damage their pawn structure. So let's do that. I want to get rid of that bishop either way. So knight takes f3, e4. D takes e5 was interesting, but I think it wasn't working either. But okay, g takes f3. Now I want to damage the structure even further. I wish I had knight h5, knight f4, but this pawn is of course protecting that. As a result, I'm gonna take on d4. I'm expecting bishop takes d4 for that exact reason. But okay, my opponent falls into the trap of taking with the pawn, which it does look like the most natural. But now I think the f4 square is a little bit weak. I was wondering if I could... Maybe I could have... Nah, I can't take here. What am I saying? No, I do have to take here and then take here. I was wondering if I could have tricked my opponent by playing e takes d4 a move before, to make it a little bit more forcing that they take with the pawn rather than the bishop, and exploiting something, but it doesn't seem like there was any way of exploiting it. Queen h4, rook g1, bishop takes d4, rook g4 is winning for white. So let's not do that. Queen h4, rook g1. We don't have to take the pawn though. We can go queen h3, threatening nothing because queen takes f3, knight takes f3. Okay. So let's go knight f4. Threat. What's the threat? What's the threat? Okay, d5, that gives me squares. That's definitely wrong. 95. But rook g1, or just bringing more pieces into the game. Bishop e4 maybe, bothering me a little bit. The threat, I guess, was knight 63, but now that there's holes everywhere, then I can keep the tension, and this bishop is never going to be good on e4 anymore because of the pawn on d5. So now I get to bring all my pieces into the game. Bishop takes e5, looking at the king side. Now queen h4, knight takes d3 is lethal. In general, the dark squares are so weak. Okay, so let's go h5. Actually, let's think twice before playing. Let's go queen h4, because even though I thought that rook g4 was a little bit annoying here, I do have queen takes f2. Now, rook g2 unfortunately doesn't work, because I can take. And this is probably game over. King takes g2, queen takes h2, king f1, queen h1, king e2. Bishop takes b2 wins. There must be a cleaner way of playing. I think bishop g3. Bishop g3, knight e4. Bishop d4. Bishop c3, nah. I think we should just take it. We can also take on b2. Of course, queen h1 is mate. So white has to play either knight e4 or bishop e4 or bishop e... Actually, bishop e2, no, sorry. But knight e4 or bishop e4. And they're still losing the rook. Queen h1, queen takes a1 would have won the rook as well. but not the b2 pawn. And yeah, king e2 or king e1 f5. Yeah, my bishop was still covering that square. Good game, Hendrisal 14. We're in 48th. Pretty tragic. We're miles away from number 1. We're miles away from even top 20 or top 10. Top 20? Maybe one more win will get us into top 20. We have 3 minutes left. Good luck, Bangkok Dad. Okay. Let's follow up with what Leon Levite recommends. 1d6 against everything and anything. So against d4, we go into this Philidor endgame. Very well known to be very solid. So takes. Maybe not the best weapon against lower rated players, because it's very drawish. But that's one school of thought. The other school of thought is you will be able to outplay your opponent by knowing where the pieces belong. I think I should have gone bishop e6 first. It's a pretty big deal who wins this diagonal first, because white could have played bishop c4, but now that black plays bishop e6, of course bishop c4 is not possible. So yeah. And yeah, momentarily it does seem like black is underdeveloped, because black is underdeveloped. If anyone is slightly better, maybe it's white. I'm not sure anymore because of this diagonal stuff, or the motive of whoever wins the diagonal first is probably slightly better. If anything, it's equal, right? But it's never black worse. That's my point. Okay, we can develop with knight d7. One of the questions you should answer is where this knight belongs. If it goes to e7, it's blocking the bishop. It goes to h6, you have to calculate bishop takes h6. But I'm ultimately going to go knight h6 with the idea of knight f7. I'm not worried about bishop takes h6 because of g takes h6. And then I'm going to follow it up with bishop c5. So I don't care about my pawn structure being damaged. Because I get the bishop pair, and not only that, I get to play bishop c5 with tempo. f2 also already becomes a weakness. So that was if white played bishop takes h6. That's all the news by now. Of course, this did not happen. But now my knight is nice and solid on f7. We found the ideal square. My opponent goes for h3 g4 plan, which I guess ultimately wants to achieve g5. And I guess it's fine, yeah. Not so worried about that. I'm just wondering if I should have prevented it with h6, but I don't think so. That comes with its own, good lord. That comes with its own demons, with the knight h4 and knight g6. Now bishop c5 may come to people's minds, and if bishop takes e5, knight takes e5, but it unfortunately runs into a tactic that wins 2 pieces for the rook. If you're a beginner, you may think that 2 pieces is worse than a rook, but that's actually wrong. A rook is better than 2 pieces. Wake up. I'm joking. So b5 comes to my mind, I guess. Trying to go for knight b6. If I go knight b6 first, I cannot move my pawn anymore. But yeah, b5, knight b6 comes to mind. a5 comes to my mind, actually, just to play a4. This is an endgame. We have to take it slow. Bishop e7 comes to my mind, actually, just to prevent g5 for sure. Once and for all. Also just bringing the rook into the game. Rook h d8, knight c5. But I feel like at some point b5 would be useful. Maybe I should have played it, because now a4, and I have to reply a5. I don't know. b5 kind of anticipating a4, because now I have b4 and then a5. That's the logic behind that. Yeah, I think b5 was better. But it's also a question of which move you want to allow. If I go b5, I allow g5, and if I go bishop b7, I allow a4. Or I thought I allowed a4, because now rook g1. Still insisting on g5. Let's see. Do we go h6? I think we can go h6. Let's go h6. If not h4, we can now move the rook. And if knight g6, we can move the bishop. I guess bishop b4 is pretty important. If it wasn't because of bishop b4, we're losing the bishop, the dark square bishop. And it's not like we're losing, but yeah, it's maybe a little bit concerning. This I have bishop f8. h4. Yeah, our opponent's playing pretty well. But I guess h4, I have g6. That's one of the reasons why having a knight on f7 is useful. Because this knight is protecting stuff. Should I go g6 before it's too late? It seems like it. Yeah, let's go g6. After knight g3, white is threatening h5, creating holes. But maybe it's not a threat. Maybe it's just... I mean, what are we gonna do to stop it otherwise? h5, we go g5. Okay. It is what it is. After knight f5, I'm probably gonna take. Not immediately. I'm gonna wait a little bit, but yeah, eventually. f4. Okay, things are happening. Things are changing. So takes, bishop d6 is the first sequence that comes to my mind. b4 first comes to my mind as well. And if knight a4... Actually, knight a4 is annoying, because knight b6, there's knight c5. But maybe then I can take, and take. So never mind. Let's go b4. f5. Wow, I didn't even see this move. g6, f5. Wow. Maybe f5 was winning there for a second. Okay, let's go knight b6. Now f5, I take, and I take. Take and take. But even that is not super clear. Things are happening. Yeah. That's the thing with chess. Yeah, I think this is just blunders. Bishop takes e5. And we're taking an f4. It's too late, by the way, for any hope of getting into the top 20. If you take a look at the left, bottom left, top left corner. Okay. So this is hanging. Do we care? I think so, yeah. Let's defend it. Professional decision making. Let's go a5. We're protecting b4. We're threatening 95 maybe, or just putting our pawns on g5. We're up a pawn. We have to solidify things. We don't want craziness anymore. 95 allows craziness with g5 potentially. I mean, not entirely. Takes h5. Continues to build up some pressure. Let's go 95. I know I want to get 95. It's threatening f3 to some extent. And it's also tempting g5. It looks like I allow g5. Because I do allow g5. The truth is, it's maybe not something to be worried about because takes, and h5. Also, it prevents knight d3. So for example, if I had gone g5, takes, I don't get the chance of maybe trading. Maybe trading here is just superior. Maybe f3 is superior. Okay, f3 takes. I think we're just winning there. I mean, it looks amazing. Taking, pawn takes. I mean, f3 bishop f1 is also a candidate move, by the way. Is it though? Knight takes g4. Yeah, things are getting a little bit. Let's start with f3. I guess we can't just win without calculating. If anyone is trying to get you into that idea that you can win a game without calculating, they're lying to you. They're lying in your face. There's no way you can win a game without calculating. Even though it looks like Karpov used to do it. Yeah. I think it's just Karpov was well known for okay, let me focus here. Sorry. Bishop takes g4 is also a candidate move. Threatening f2. Karpov was well known to win static positions, so statically winning positions. But he calculated like a monster as well. He also won games in dynamic, very dynamic games. He's just famous for the static ones. So yeah. Wow, I didn't see that. Yeah, this is the type of moves that I should be avoiding. Okay, let's see what's going on. So can I sacrifice the exchange with h5? Because I have pawns of pawns. Can I go f2? I think f2 works, actually. I'm gonna go for f2. If rook takes, I take. And, well, we both lost our... exchanges, so it's fine. And I'm still up 2 pawns because I took another one on g4. Whoa, is that a GM? Whoa, a GM was playing in this arena. How many did they? Well, I can check. No, we don't care. Things are getting spicy. Yeah, things are getting spicy. Wow, rook d2. Is Leech's puzzles good enough? Yeah, definitely. Well, it depends on your level. I'm assuming that you are FIDE maximum 1500, yeah. If you're trying to get to 2000, maybe you should get Puzzles book. Puzzles books. But that's knight a4 forces. Okay, let's go knight c4. Hitting the rook. And then knight e5. Knight a4, the problem is bishop takes f2. And we're losing the pawn. So I prefer to not lose the pawn if I have a way. I'm doing well, Viking. You? I'm doing well. My back hurts a little. My internet is still a little unstable. But like, yeah, I'm healthy. Sometimes we forget about that. Oh, let's take a look at who's challenging us. Oh, what a surprise. Cheetah. If you're an old follower, you'll understand that Cheetah always challenges me. Always. It's insane. I think it's a bot. If someone at some point finds out if Cheetah is indeed a bot, and I'll give you their Cheetah 2, like they're 2 numbers. And every time I kind of say it, it disappears sometimes. It randomly disappears. Should we take? I think we should take here. Bishop g3, we just drop back. And if takes, I think we can be greedy and take. We should be winning. There's no discovered attack on the bishop on the rook by the bishop. Oh yeah. There we go. Here it is again. Look. Cheetah 65. Always, look. Cheetah 65, look. It happens all the time. We're up a whole minor piece. Knight of 3, I think. Oh, knight of 3. Knight of 3. You shouldn't be suggesting these moves anymore. I'm supposed to be an FM. Yes, I see the live is buffing sometimes. Yeah, that kills me. That's super bad. I've been trying to make it not do that for such a long time. Yeah. They always challenge me. It's insane. We're too famous. What can I say? I'm joking. I think it's a bot. Okay, let's solidify. Against bishop 65, we can take with the pawn. And we're ultimately just up tons of material. Let's invade. Although that doesn't... Oh, it does threaten something. It threatens knight f2. The bishop pair is so strong that even down a whole rook, white is still not losing that quickly. That's how strong the bishop pair is. Keep that in mind. Of course, white is losing because white is down a rook. Of course, in your normal game, you're not down a rook. But yeah. The bishop pair, good. You should always seek to own the bishop pair. Now things should go downhill. That's too much. Okay, let's see how many points the GM had. I'm just curious. If the GM came later, yeah. We're famous, yeah. There we go. Thanks for the game, Bangkok that. So 49th place. Oh, but the last win didn't count, of course. Let's see. Where's the GM? Okay, they joined late as well. But they got more games than us. They got 2 more games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he lost the bishop as he was getting complimented. No, we were not playing against them, right? I don't know. Let's see. Do we have time for a couple more? Okay, let's see. We're gonna join another arena. Elite Super Blitz? What is this? Well, it's a little bit elite. I think every time I'm tempted to play. Oh no, the Daily Rapid Arena. I like playing Rapid because then I can explain my thoughts. That's why. Okay, I guess we can't. Well, we'll play whoa! Whoa! We're featured. That's amazing. How long have we been featured in the homepage? Wow. Well, if any Leeches mod is watching this, thank you very much. I'm very grateful. Yeah, thanks. Who is this? Who is this guy? Don't watch him. Just bluffing and... Okay, well, if you guys joined because of you clicked on the homepage, welcome. I actually want to go to the toilet, but okay, I guess I'll hold it a little bit longer because I'm on the homepage. So let's play some Rapid Arena or Rapid in general. Wait, actually maybe we should host a simul. Wow, what a moment. Yeah. Okay, so let's play some rapid. Or maybe someone already in the lobby is playing. A plus 1, A plus 5, A plus 5. Is 5 plus 5 enough time? You want to be a mod, sir? Actually, I'm gonna look into that because I've always looked into it. I don't know how it works in YouTube, but I'll look into that. Okay, we're playing some technically rapid, but it's very fast rapid. We're gonna play 1e4. Our opponent plays the Sicilian defense with c5. We're gonna play knight f3. There are two moves that black can play, and a third one that kind of discourages the Smith-Morra, which is what I ultimately want to play. e6 discourages the Smith-Morra because after d4, c6, d4, c3, there's knight f6. Very strong move. Sorry, is that true? Actually, no, sorry. The move that discourages the Smith-Morra is d6. e6, there's, after knight f6, there's e5, but because of d6, there's always going to be d6, e5. Now, we still can go for the Smith-Morra. That's the surprising part. Because after knight f6, technically you can play queen takes d4. You're not losing right away, but okay. Our opponent accepts it. They go e6. Now I'm gonna go bishop c4. Why bishop c4, David? If your bishop is looking right in front of a wall, it's right crashing against that structure, doing nothing. Well, very often in the Smith-Morra, you want to put pressure on d6, and in order to relieve that pressure, black goes e5. And once black goes e5, this bishop becomes a monster. That's the explanation in a nutshell. Attack the b2 pawn also. Second of the lag, you will always... I'll look into it. Bishop b3, my idea is once I have castled, maybe rook c1 and knight d5. Also, queen d2, rook d1. But rook c1 is my main move. Even if black goes knight c5, I guess I could go bishop c2 and threaten b4, knight d5. But it's getting interesting. So a4, b4, knight d5. Takes. I mean, as a matter of fact, knight d5 technically here is possible. Because takes, queen takes, we're both threatening queen takes f7 and queen takes a8 simultaneously. But there's knight b6, knight d5, e takes, queen takes d5, knight b6, protecting both. What a heroic move. Okay, well, then rook c1. Now knight c5. Okay, queen b8 makes sense. There are some positions where we can go e5. Takes. Queen e2. Bishop d6, it doesn't seem to work. But I'm going to put my queen on e2. Doing tons of things, actually. Supporting e5 at some point. Supporting knight d5 now that this is check. And just bringing the rook into the d1. So queen e2 is kind of a no-brainer. But I have to speed up because I'm talking too much. a4, b4. Knight d4, rook d1. Knight b5. How do we make the most of this? Knight takes e5. Knight takes e5, d takes e5. Yeah, this is unclear. But my opponent's super underdeveloped, so there must be a way. Now, one of the ideas, actually, if black were to develop like this, is rook takes d6. Sacrifice the exchange. But of course, black is not going to do that. Black is going to play knight f6. How do you put pressure on d6? One of the ideas is to go a4, but the problem is b4. And all of a sudden, we're kind of stuck. Huh. Bishop takes e5 for the sake of not losing a tempo after black recaptures seems to only help black. I don't know, it seems like... Seems like maybe there's no way. Knight 65 takes and bishop e3. That's another idea. Okay, let's go a4. b4, knight a2. And hope that b4 is a little bit weak. Also, we are freeing up the c file. Okay. Now let's take once. Go a5 as well. Let's go queen d2 as well. I remember now. Sometimes you want to, you don't care about doubling the pawns. And knight 64, I guess queen e3. So that happened. Wait a second. There are no tactics here? That's insane. Queen d4. Takes e5. Queen c4. I think that works actually. Takes. We're putting pressure on d6, so it makes sense that black is going to play something like e5. Okay. Okay, now let's go queen e3. We have to keep an eye on time. Yeah, the more we wait, the less likely we're gonna get compensation for the pawn. Which is bad news, of course. But yeah, it's just super tough. Okay. So we can take on e5, like queen g5. I need to bring this guy into the game again at some point. I'm gonna take once and play bishop g5. And hope for the best. Of h6, I'm gonna bluff a little bit. But maybe bishop g3 was better. But yeah, this knight is dead. Absolutely dead. So I need to bring it into the game. Okay, rook c4, I guess. Should we just trade it? Okay. For the sake of momentum. Oh, this is hanging. Goodness gracious. Should we sacrifice it again? As well? Sorry. This. I'm just gonna go knight d1. Knight c1, knight d3. Claiming that I have, I don't know, the h file is gonna be important at some point. Yeah, this is not good. Not amazing. Okay. Let's take. Sorry, let's play h5 and take. Knight c1. Bishop g5, I'm not worried about. I was worried about bishop g5 in the, like, if I had a rook on c1. Okay, let's not blunder. We have knight d3. Let's defend. We need to be resilient. Okay. Bishop e2. I actually like bishop b3 more, because I can play bishop c4. Maybe this is a little bit inaccurate. Bishop a6, rook takes a5. Okay, bishop c4. If queen d4 takes, rook takes f3. There's f3 at the end. Bishop g5, queen f3 do I have to play? Queen d4, rook c7. I'm just hoping to solidify with f3. Okay. I'm reasonably happy to see that move. As happy as you can be in this horrible position. So now f3, of course, it was attacked twice. I had kind of no choice. My next move is going to be b3 probably, or rook c7, or king f2. Bishop b5 is also. Because there's some positions where black can sacrifice the rook. Oof, that one's scary. That one's super scary. But I think it doesn't work. And when I say it doesn't work, I mean it's not ending my life. Oh, but I think this one blunders. Thinking h2 was much better. Ay, ay, ay. Bishop b6, rook b5, bishop a6. I didn't want to say it in case there was screen sniping. Yeah, bishop b6. When we playing a simultaneous again, even though some people do, yeah, that's what keeps me. That's what keeps me away from doing simuls. But yeah, that's just it's the same problem of always. I should have played b3 maybe. I mean, there's hope. Whoa! I live to see one more day. Could have taken an e5 maybe as well. Okay, never mind. We're still down a pawn, but now it's not obvious. Now things are interesting. This is a better square for the knight. D3 seems to be a little bit more shaky. I like my pawn on h5, but I'm scared that it's gonna get targeted at some point. So now my opponent is getting low on time. Oh yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Now I have takes on 93. Hitting this, hitting that. I guess king d8 is the only move. King d8, knight 65, rook d1, king e2, rook d1. Rook d2 check. Or king d3. Whoa. Interesting. I think this is a little bit desperate now. Maybe it's holding somehow. How do I invade rook e2? I can't, there's no entrance here. So let's come over here. It looks like my rook is in a nice spot on the c file. But there's no entrance. So let's try to... I mean, the key thing is to prevent this, I guess. There's also rook e7. No, I didn't even see that. Very poor. The way you kind of fight the bishop pairs by trading one of them. So I'm very happy if I can trade it. Whoa. I can take it. I think now I can just come over here. Wow, that was a lucky escape. I was lucky to escape from that one. Good game. Let's analyze it. Why not bishop c6? In which position? In... Ah, I see. Yeah. So, bishop c6, I know. Bishop c6, there's bishop a6. And I realized that probably the best move here is bishop b5, and that only repeats. But that's the first move that came to my mind as well. Hello, Abhishek. GG, good game. Was that you or Akaya? That was an amazing game. So let's see what the engine thinks. So we get to this line, bishop c4, a6. Bro, can we talk? Yes, you can talk. I wasn't you, okay. So many people have reached this position. 3 people. The queen c7 has never been played. Wow, because of rook c1, this is the best move. And queen takes c4, there's knight d5. Oh, not knight d5. What? Knight d2. That's insane. Knight d5 blunders queen takes c4, by the way. So I got excited there. But knight d2. And there's just no good move with the queen. Queen d3, knight d5, knight c7, and rook takes c8. But this is super unclear. Ah, it's because of queen g4, yeah. Okay. Well, that's amazing. I didn't calculate that far. Bishop b3, I moved pretty mechanically. This is why you shouldn't... I mean, if it was a classical game, hopefully you would have the habit to stop yourself from playing automatic moves, such as bishop b3, reactive moves, and say, wait a second, what about rook c1? But it's a blitz game. Sorry, it's a rapid game, but pretty quick rapid game. On WhatsApp, reply. On WhatsApp? Good lord, I'm getting scared. No, no, if you guys have like my number, I'm scared. I'm scared. Um, learn something new every day. Exactly. Yep. So knight d7. Yeah, we now know rook c1 exactly. So knight d7. Now it's plus 1.5. Goodness gracious, with rook c1, but we were a little bit too slow. I know castle short side is fine. This is plus 2. What? How did we ruin this position? Queen e2? Well, according to the engine, knight d5 right away. I remember. Yeah, so queen e2. We saw this knight d5 idea. We saw this knight d5 idea here, but after rook c1, queen b8, we just assumed that, I don't know, it disappeared or something. Knight d5 is still possible. Takes, takes. There's no way to defend this. Wow. Because knight h6, bishop takes h6. Rook a7? What? Okay, yeah. It wasn't obvious. As long as you continue with e5. This is strong. Also knight d4 is strong. Threatening knight c6. Well, when queen e2, which loses some of our advantage, and after knight e5 it's not obvious. In fact, there's very little moves that continue to have an advantage. One of the only ones that give white a clear plus is bishop d5. And this is crazy. But as long as we're getting these pieces into the game, we just have to be quick. This is the Smith Morra. You've sacrificed a pawn. I'll think about that, Abshinek. So knight a2, and of course this is depressing. If I have to put my knight on a2, that's insane. Why did I not put it on b1? What am I doing? Yeah, knight b1, white still has some plus. Maybe it's more of a strategical advantage. It's long-term compensation for the pawn, I remind you. Black is up a pawn. We sacrificed the pawn because we played the Smith Morra. But it's much better to put the knight on b1. You're putting the knight a little bit closer to the center. But yeah, over here I just... a5 was the last moment where I could have maybe fought a little bit. But after a5 from black, yeah, this is just depressing. And black is better, black is better. Here, I suspect at some point black should have taken on h4. And there's just nothing, there's nothing. Here I went h5, pretty materialistically. There's minus 3.6. Here queen d6 is just game over. Oh no, wait a second. It's not that clear. Knight d3. Yeah, this is game over. If you don't allow bishop b3, bishop c4, I feel like even queen d8. If you go bishop a6 here, then I have to put my bishop on e2, and it seems a little bit more passive because this is always I don't know, it's always pinned. If I put my bishop on c4, I'm always threatening to exchange one of the bishops. And given that black has the bishop pair, yeah. Yeah, maybe it's Abhishek. Maybe it's him. So we go bishop c4, and it seems like with this setup, maybe white can fight a little bit harder, but okay. The engine disagrees with me. The engine thinks this is still winning. And they go queen d4. But queen d4 is the real mistake. So from minus 3.5, black goes to minus 0.6, which is roughly equal. Of course, we took, rook takes d4, and after f3, we survived. And now this is no longer easy for black. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Let me just change this to say goodbye. But yeah, if you take a look at the engine, I'm just going to change the position of the camera for a second. It's not as much as before, look. -3, minus 0.6. So what was the best for black? Bishop g5. Okay. There we go. Don't get scared. It's only me. That's how I was born. So yeah. And here I felt, yeah, bishop b6 wins, no? Here. Bishop b6 minus 3.8, yeah. So black had their chance again. And after rook b5, bishop a6. But I didn't realize this, yeah. They're just losing. I thought, I don't know, I thought bishop b6, rook b5, rook takes e4, rook takes d6 was fine. I thought this is even better for white, and I was happy. But the only move here for white to survive is rook b5 directly. Of course, after bishop a6, there's a rook b8. Whoa! Actually, I thought this is hanging, but it's not. Even sacrificing this is... Wow, okay. This wasn't obvious, though. But yeah, once we got our knight on c4, it wasn't obvious. And here, knight e3, it's already... Black already has to find only move king d8. But after this, it's just winning. Thank you for the game. Okay, I think that's gonna be it. Thanks everyone who joined. I'll be streaming probably tomorrow. And yeah, keep doing your chess. Thanks very much. Have a good day.